Welcome to the special podcast series of Bridging the Gap, where emergency managers and industry experts attending the 2024 International Association of Emergency Managers come together to discuss the current and past challenges facing emergency management. Join us as we explore insightful recommendations for improving efficiency in the field through the latest trends, solutions, and expert advice. Tune into the conversation that's shaping the future of emergency management.
Good morning again from IAEM, the International Association of Emergency Managers annual conference here at the Broadmoor Hotel. And with me, this is actually a treat because I've got folks from, it's kind of like the Hatfields and McCoys, but not really because you're on two sides of the state line. I've got Morgan Hunter today from Johnson County Emergency Management, which is
on
Johnson
the
County,
side.
Kansas. And then I've got Canaan?
Canaan.
Canaan.
Yep.
Okay. So Claire Canaan is from the city of Belton, Missouri.
Yep.
And you are both emergency managers, right?
Yes,
we are.
So who wants to kick it off? Kind of tell me a little bit about yourselves, what it is that you do, and also some of the challenges and why you're here at IAEM. So
I can start. So I am fairly new to the EM field. I've been doing it for about 2.5 years now. Prior to that, I have a law enforcement background. I was a deputy sheriff where I worked in a jail setting and communications dispatch. And then my first little introduction into emergency management was when I was the public information officer for the sheriff's office and participated in some exercises. And then a little thing called COVID happened. And I was in the county's EOC, and that was kind of my first real introduction to what goes on in emergency management, what's going on in the Emergency Operations Center, what people are doing outside of just my little public information officer bubble. And then wanted to get out of that law enforcement field, and an opportunity in emergency management came up, and it's been great since. I've recently moved over to Missouri, and I've taken the role as Director of Emergency Management for Belton. It's a brand new created position, standalone department. So,
how big is Belton, Missouri?
Just over 25,000 people.
Oh, okay. So it's a pretty decent size.
It's a small town feel,
Yeah.
but they are growing and expanding. So
Good deal. Awesome. Morgan, how about you?
Yeah, so my name is Morgan Hunter. I started out actually learning emergency and disaster management at Northwest Missouri State University. I came out of there in 2016, and I'll be very honest, it was incredibly hard to find a job in the field. And it was very hard to get a job where you're just trying to get experience to learn. And so it took me a few years to finally land a role. Claire mentioned this little thing called COVID. That is actually what created my first opportunity in public health. I was actually in Shawnee County, Kansas, out in Topeka, where I really got to test myself and get a lot of experience very fast over the course of a year. After that, I started with Johnson County, Kansas Emergency Management as the emergency management planner. Claire and I actually started there the very same day. So
Wow.
we've been pretty fast friends ever since.
So it helped me out and help the people that are eventually going to listen to this. Johnson County and Belton, Missouri are all in the Kansas City metropolitan
correct.
area.
Yep.
So how does that work from a Johnson County, Kansas perspective and a Belton, Missouri perspective, working as part of the entire Kansas City metro area?
It's one of the unique things about the Kansas City Metro that we're so ingrained with it and used to it that when we go talk to other folks from cities that are right next to each other, maybe across state lines, they're like, how does that work? But we have an organization called Mid-America Regional Council, and they are kind of that regional coordination over a 9-county region, which includes Johnson County, and then I'm a part of Cass County, Missouri. And so the cooperation and the resource sharing and the just everything working together has been well established over many years of making plans, updating those plans, running through exercises. We do regional exercises, we do local exercises, and it's just kind of an ingrained thought for anybody that comes into this KC Metro and even the counties that are right on the outskirts of those 9 counties, that just how we can work well across state lines. And it works with most recently the different Super Bowl parades. We've had Kansas resources that are utilized over onto the Missouri side.
I was waiting for a Chiefs reference
Go
to
Chiefs.
come up. Yeah, here we go. There you go.
Yeah, you know those Super Bowl parades. Hey, I grew up. I've never experienced one until I was an adult. So, you know. But since situations like that, we've got the FIFA World Cup coming to Kansas City in 2026, and
Right.
that has been kind of the forefront of what we've been dealing with and talking about at those levels. And so, the importance of being able to work across state lines seamlessly and well is invaluable, I think.
Absolutely.
Morgan, anything from that perspective?
Really, it's one of
If you
those.
don't mind just coming a little bit closer. Thanks.
Absolutely. So, just really when we're talking about what we have to offer from all these different jurisdictions, we all have this huge varying level of experience that everybody pitches in, right? And so we not just on the operational side, where we're all pitching in, we all
Yeah.
have resources, but we all start to see each other, as these emergency managers, as these big resources ourselves. Me, I'm coming in with 2 to 3 years of experience, plus a lot of volunteer work. But then you have people, who've been in the Kansas City Metro for 2 decades,
Yeah.
and they know everything about everything. And so they have been really imparting a lot of wisdom onto us, and letting us know about, the resources, the people to talk to, the contacts that we need to make. And that is just invaluable.
So Claire was talking about her law enforcement background. What experience do you have? What background do you have other than doing
So
emergency management through a school program?
and so largely it is just that public health piece for that 1 year
Okay.
before I really just delved straight into emergency management. Now, before that, I do work for a volunteer organization called the Consortium for Humanitarian Service and Education. It's an all-volunteer-led and run organization. It started in Florida. I can't remember the year anymore. I've been a part of it for a decade, since I was actually in school. And I actually return to a little place called Maryville, Missouri, once a year to conduct an exercise called Missouri Hope, where we take 60 to 90 participants, depending on the year, and really impart a lot of emergency services and emergency management lessons and knowledge.
So it's a lot of community outreach.
Absolutely.
Good deal. So for the two of you who are fairly new to emergency management, to the community, what are some challenges that you've experienced? What are some successes that you've had? You mentioned that little thing called COVID, which kind of turned everything upside down, and that's, I'm not going to say revolutionized, but it's really had an impact on emergency management.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not only from how we do things, but also from a personnel standpoint, where is it safe to say that COVID is also the reason that you guys have your job, because maybe some folks went off and said, I'm done, I'm retiring, I'm moving on?
100%.
Yep.
Especially getting into the public health sector. Saw a lot of jobs opening up, within 1 year of COVID occurring. I think a lot of people weren't ready for that level of an event, but it did open the doors for a lot of younger, eager people who really wanted to, put themselves out there and get involved.
Yeah.
And that's an opportunity that I can never talk better about, because it really just changed the course of my life. And while there were, so many negative aspects of it, COVID really provided me exactly what I needed to start following my dreams in emergency management.
That's an interesting take. Claire.
I think, honestly, what's changed over the years is, if you would have asked me even 8 years ago, what does emergency management do? I would have been like,
Oh, no, yeah.
I don't know. And I think,
totally understand and respect that.
It's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what their role would be. I know I went there for some exercises a couple times, but like I said, I was in the Joint Information Center, and I don't even think we did it right when we were in there, So it's like, kind of like, oh yeah, they just are the ones that put on our yearly exercises. And I think after COVID, the roles and responsibilities of emergency management became at least a little bit more apparent of what they were there for. And I think as time has gone on and that focus on emergency management has identified the need to have that dedicated emergency management position. And that, I think, is what led to my position was just voted on and created in June of this year. Previously, it had fallen under the police department. It was just an ancillary duty for one of their captains.
Yeah.
It was under the fire department before that. So now coming into that as a standalone department, it's now my responsibility to kind of restructure, get people to rethink about where emergency management falls and what our roles and responsibilities are.
So who do you report to now?
City manager.
City manager.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're completely removed from everything.
Yeah. So in Missouri too, the dedicated, if you don't have the dedicated emergency management for any jurisdiction is going to be the highest elected official or their designee. So technically the mayor within Belton is our emergency manager. He's the one that can declare disaster declarations, and but they created that position, and then I report straight to that city manager.
Excellent.
Emergency management, over time I've learned it's not just about knowing your specific part of the field, right?
Yeah.
You need to know a little bit of everything, but going through all those different programs and learning a lot about different kinds of people, I learned how to talk to people, how to better, communicate. And what I learned is emergency management is all about communication, chatting people up, building those relationships.
Huge.
And I think my experience made that incredibly easy for me.
I'm going to date myself because I actually do know what a Rolodex is.
I do too.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
I remember one in the house. back
I've
when-
seen pictures.
Here we go. But I submit you're only as good as your contact list.
Yes.
You're only as good as your Rolodex. Because if you don't have those people that you can call and you can put out, you can get on, get to call you back.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you got?
It makes me think too, kind of about one of our difficulties, right? In emergency management, we have to perform our jobs extremely well at all times. We don't really get the benefit of failure. Because if we fail, we've not just failed in our job or in our role, or for our leadership or our organization, we failed our community.
It's a really daunting task. It's something that you kind of sit back and go, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
But because
It's
of our
a heavy load to
Yeah.
carry on your shoulders.
Yeah.
because of our need to succeed 100% of the time, and maintain that 100% success rate for everything that we're doing, when it comes down to the point that we're at stress points in our job and we don't have enough staff to do what we need to do, Johnson County, Kansas, we have a population of about 620,000 people. We have 6 staff members to handle that load.
Yeah.
We have more work to do than we know what to do with. Getting our leadership, above emergency management, getting our elected officials, everybody else in the county to understand that need. It's hard for us to explain that we do need more people to continue to succeed, because all they see right now is just the 100% success rate. But they don't have the capability, and it's nothing against them, because if I wasn't in my role and my position, I would be the exact same way they are.
Exactly right.
But will we always be able to maintain that? Will we always be able to do the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people in our community while maintaining this whole community approach? So,
Great point. Anything you want to add to that, Claire? Now, how many
I don't
people do
remember
you
if there
have
was
in
a
your
question.
office? Is
Me.
it just you? You're the army of one.
Yes.
So you cover all 25,000 people there in Belton.
Yes, and I think the challenge with that is that because it is a brand new standalone department, there's not a lot of. I've been met with a lot of, it's your position to make it what you want, and I'm like, that's great in theory, but at the same time, it's kind of trying to make sure that those already held beliefs and notions for what this role does and what my responsibilities are, because of just how it's fallen under different departments over the years. It was maybe my future plans and goals are not aligned with the way they've been in the past.
And let me guess.
Yeah.
Not only is it your job to make what you want, but it's also everyone's like, no, that's Claire's job.
Yeah, well, like, oh, we don't think
give
that's
it to Claire.
police and fire. That might be emergency management.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not it's. I mean, we, and this is, I think, around the whole Kansas City Metro. We do have a unhomed population, a homelessness population, that as we get ready to approach the colder weather, winter weather, coming up with solutions or things to protect them from that severe cold. And when I first came in, they were like, oh, well, we've been working on it, but that's an emergency management thing. And I was like, it is not just emergency management. This is a collaborative approach that we need to take with our nonprofit organizations, with our different departments within the city, like our economic development. I go, emergency management is one little prong of that. And I'm happy to be here to help find resources and get those resources and help people locate where they can do things. But I was like, I think the big thing in emergency management that I always try to drive home is that it's always a partnership.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I've ever done anything where it's been strictly, it's just emergency management, So it's always us bringing people together, finding those resources, and making sure everything is a collaborative effort to achieve the best results.
You're building those networks, those relationships, where you can pick up a phone at any point in time and just say, hey, what's going on?
Yeah. And that was one of the big things is like when I was getting into the public information world and the trainings and doing PIO stuff was, the first time I speak to another PIO or a news reporter, we don't want it to be when the incident's happening. We want to have those relationships already established and, the trust at least somewhat building prior to having to respond to something.
You remind me of one of our founders of SummitET. He always has a comment when we're doing tabletop exercises or other exercises together. He says, you don't want to make introductions over the smoking crater.
Yes.
And
yes.
I applaud you guys not only for kind of coming up together, but the fact that you all still maintain, you could tell you guys are definitely friends, but also that you're it seems like you're pinging off each other too to
All
try
the
and
time.
get the ground truth, to help each other out, to get the right information.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do with Bridging the Gap is bridge the gap, pun intended, between some of the older folks in terms of our emergency management and then folks like you all who have just come in. If there was something that you could tell the old guard, if you will, if they could change or if they could do something for you guys, what would that be?
I think it would be just to not be afraid of the change or like embrace something that makes you uncomfortable. Just the way, and you see reports about things all the time. It's like, the different generations, the way we all do things differently, or the different ways we learn. And I think just being open to and embracing something that might make you a little uncomfortable, you'd be surprised.
What would that something be?
Like, one thing that we're like real big on is like the way we conduct exercises is instead of doing, there's a lot of different folks around here too doing them in like game-based exercises, or the way we're approaching them is they're fun. Not that they weren't fun before, but like putting a little more fun into them, making them a little bit more engaging and unique, and implementing different ways to play it as a game versus just sitting around a U shape of conversation.
I think a lot of that has to do with the facilitator. Wink, wink, nod, nod.
Yes, probably that too. Yes, so
We'll talk offline.
But but also just I can't really think of anything super specific, but just in the community outreach aspect of how we want to communicate with our communities and we need to meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
We can't just say, well, we've always done it this way. And connecting even not just with the communities, but I guess one thing that comes to mind is how we connect with our partners and our stakeholders. That when I was at the county, at the city levels and stuff, and the different people that would have to reach us, coming up with an easy solution for them to reach us in an incident, or if they had a question, instead of having to go through a 3-phase of calling somebody to get paged and do all that stuff. But instead of having to worry about a paging system and then waiting for one of us to call back, why do we not do direct phone lines? Or, why are we not giving our phone numbers out so that we're more accessible to those that are our partners and our stakeholders in the community? But you get met with sometimes like, oh, we've always done it this way.
Yeah.
Oh, there's
Check
nothing.
the ego at the door.
Yeah, we've already done it this way. There's nothing wrong with it. It's working just fine.
Yeah.
It's like, but why not?
We love
could do
killer
better.
phrases.
Yeah,
You
killer
love what?
phrases
Killer phrases.
is what we learned that.
What's a killer phrase or killer phrase?
So it's essentially a phrase.
Yeah.
We learned about this actually in leadership class.
Leadership class. Yeah.
But there are specific phrases that, whether intentional or not, are put out there to essentially shut the conversation down. So, we've always done it this way.
We tried
We've
it
that
before and it didn't work.
Yeah. And so, when you start learning more about killer phrases, I actually have a squishy in my backpack that says no killer phrases on it. And I'll show you offline here.
Learning a new thing.
Yeah.
I like it.
But it's a lot about learning how to circumvent those killer phrases when they do come up, or being able to address them immediately, because people sometimes don't even know they're doing it.
Yeah.
They want to be comfortable, right?
Killer phrases. That's a hell of a takeaway. That's something that you're right, in our community, in our space, we've done that before.
It's tried and true.
It's tried and true. If you could wave a magic wand, what would be your one takeaway or two takeaways? What would you do? What could you change? What would you want to see done in emergency management?
Honestly,
Relative to where you are and to the community, to the field in general. And changing your elected leadership is not one of those. No, I'm only
built
kidding.
a new a whole emergency operations center.
Yeah.
I don't have one of those.
Honestly, I'd love to see more opportunities for fresh faces. We were kind of talking about, the old guard in a way, right? A lot of these guys, when they get into the position, guys or girls, they get into the position and they don't leave it for the next 30 years.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it never really opens up opportunities for, these newer generations to come in. Because a lot of them, have new, fresh ideas. We even had an intern.
We've always done it that way.
Yeah. We had an
Nothing wrong
intern
with
that was asking us questions, saying, well, why are you guys doing that? And we all stopped and we went, that's a great question. We're going to go figure that out, because we don't know why we're doing that.
You get so ingrained in it that you don't realize what you're doing.
Just an
sometimes.
intern asking us questions caused us to make changes.
Yeah.
Well, that's very forward thinking, and that's really great that you would look at it that way. Is there anything you want to add to that?
Kind of the same. I think just as the years go on, the spotlight on emergency management becomes brighter and brighter, and I think that's huge for highlighting the position itself and the need for it in communities and the good work that we're all doing. And we're not so much behind the curtain anymore. And I think, I hope eventually that would lead to additional opportunities, and especially from elected officials in your cities and your governments, for saying, hey, we need more people to help accomplish these emergency management goals and tasks. So just being able to have, you have so many armies of one in different jurisdictions, and some places that's fine. It's a very rural community that maybe they can accomplish everything they need, but just without having to bring so much to the table just to be told, nope, you don't need more people. Being able to just get that buy-in early on, and the understanding of why we're asking for more bodies to really round out the emergency management teams that are out there and do our best for the communities we're serving.
I agree with you. Well, guys, I very much appreciate the conversation. It was a lot of fun. It was some really good stuff, and it's really cool to see the dynamic between you two. It's like besties, brother and sister, that kind of thing. And it's
we
like
get that a lot.
what our listeners don't see is they're going to walk away holding hands and skipping down the hallway. No, I'm just kidding. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Morgan Hunter with Johnson County Emergency Management, and Claire Canaan of the city of Belton, Missouri, the Army of One, the force multiplier for Region 7, Metropolitan, Kansas City. Great time. Really appreciate you guys.
Thank you very much.
Again, I'm Ron Crane with Summit Exercises and Training, a.k.a. SummitET, and again, we're bridging the gap at the International Association of Emergency Managers Annual Conference here in Colorado Springs. Thanks, guys, so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.